The world had been on edge for months, as tensions between NATO and Russia simmered dangerously close to open conflict. The sudden attack on Russian infrastructure, an explosion at a key energy facility near Kaliningrad, sent shockwaves through Moscow. Though no official claim of responsibility surfaced, Russian intelligence insisted that Polish operatives were involved, directly or indirectly, with NATO backing them quietly from the shadows. The Kremlin's response came swiftly. Instead of silence or denial, Russia went public, announcing on state television that a red line has been crossed. Moscow accused Warsaw of aggression and vowed retaliation. In Poland, leaders dismissed the accusations, but privately, they were shaken. Their military knew Russia was capable of swift and devastating reprisals. As citizens in Warsaw watched the breaking news, fear spread. Long lines formed at fuel stations, and supermarkets filled with panicked buyers stocking food and essentials. Social media exploded with rumors. Some claimed Russian missiles were already moving toward Polish borders, others speculated about cyberattacks on banks and power grids. Behind the scenes, NATO officials rushed to hold emergency meetings. The Americans urged restraint, while European leaders feared that any escalation could ignite a full-scale war on the continent. Yet Moscow's tone was clear: the era of warnings was over. The episode closed with images of Russian bombers taking off from bases in the west, while Polish citizens anxiously stared at the skies. A chilling question hung over Europe: was this the beginning of a new war? Russia's retaliation did not begin with missiles but with a different weapon: cyberwarfare. Overnight, Poland's banking system collapsed. ATMs stopped working, online transfers froze, and chaos broke out across cities. Businesses could not pay employees, and panic buying turned into looting. While the cyberattack spread, Russia launched precision strikes on military depots near the Polish-Belarusian border. Videos showed fiery explosions lighting the night sky. Poland's government tried to calm the population, assuring citizens that NATO was mobilizing forces to protect them. But on the streets, fear turned into anger. People shouted that Poland had dragged them into a war they could not win. In Moscow, the Kremlin declared that the strikes were limited and defensive, aimed at punishing Polish aggression. Yet Russian state TV celebrated the attacks as a warning to the entire NATO alliance. Propaganda painted Poland as a reckless pawn of the West, used by Washington to provoke Russia. Meanwhile, NATO faced its own internal crisis. France and Germany hesitated to escalate, fearing Russian nuclear threats. The US, however, insisted on a strong response. Secretly, American intelligence prepared cyber counterattacks against Russian networks, while moving troops and air defense systems into Poland. By the end of this episode, Europe was divided, Poland was in shock, and Russia signaled that it was ready for further escalation. For ordinary people in Warsaw, Krakow, and Gdańsk, the nightmare had just begun. Life in Poland changed overnight. Sirens blared in major cities as air defenses prepared for incoming strikes. Families packed their cars and fled toward Germany, creating massive traffic jams along highways. Schools were closed, businesses shuttered, and martial law was declared. The government tried to project strength, but inside parliament, chaos ruled. Opposition leaders accused the ruling party of provoking Moscow by aligning too closely with Washington. Rumors of betrayal spread. Some whispered that Poland had been sacrificed by its own allies. The Russian media continued to fuel panic, releasing leaked intelligence that more strikes were imminent. Though unverified, the psychological impact was immense. People hoarded cash, medicine, and even weapons. Hospitals overflowed with injured from earlier attacks, while doctors warned of shortages. Meanwhile, NATO's response finally took shape. American F-35 jets arrived in Poland, patrolling the skies, while British and German troops reinforced the eastern flank. Yet Polish citizens remained skeptical. Many felt that NATO had already hesitated too long, allowing Russia to dictate the pace of escalation. The turning point came when Russia threatened to target Poland's capital directly if NATO crossed another red line. The threat spread terror across Warsaw. In bomb shelters, families prayed, wondering if this was the last night they would see their homes intact. This episode ended with a chilling image: Polish leaders speaking on live TV with strained faces, urging calm, while in the background, the sound of distant explosions echoed. The country was living in constant fear, trapped between Moscow's fury and NATO's cautious support. The crisis now spiraled into a global confrontation. The United Nations held emergency sessions, but Russia vetoed any resolution condemning its actions. China cautiously backed Moscow, calling for restraint on all sides, while the West struggled to present a united front. Inside Poland, the panic deepened. Food shortages worsened, and refugees flooded into neighboring countries. Germany struggled to house the sudden wave of Polish families crossing the border. The European economy began to shiver as markets collapsed. Russia escalated further, not with nuclear strikes, but with hybrid warfare. Covert operatives spread disinformation, claiming Poland's government was planning to surrender. Hackers attacked NATO's military communications, briefly disabling Poland's radar systems. For hours, the country was blind to incoming threats. Yet amidst the chaos, resilience emerged. Volunteers organized shelters, distributed supplies, and set up makeshift schools for displaced children. Despite fear, Polish citizens vowed not to break. NATO, pressured by public outrage, finally announced a full-scale reinforcement of Eastern Europe. Thousands of troops poured in, signaling that the alliance was ready to defend Poland at any cost. The episode ended with a cliffhanger. Russian missiles locked onto targets near Warsaw, while NATO jets scrambled into the skies. Sirens wailed, families embraced, and the world held its breath. Would this be the beginning of World War III, or could diplomacy pull humanity back from the brink?